Hi, I'm Chad, and you're watching Squarebody Stuff. You ready to get Creampuff out of the Field of Dreams, Tex? Huh? Oh, didn't realize you had him on camera. Yeah, let's go get Creampuff out of the Field of Dreams, bring him in the shop. Jacob stopped by last night, got Snowball, the Corvette. That way he can put him in his garage. He's going to clean up the engine bay, do some other things. Still got the 383 sitting there. We're going to be working on that later on. He's got all the parts and stuff ordered that we know we need. New cam, bunch of stuff. So be looking forward to that on an upcoming video. Also, before we get out there to get Creampuff in the shop, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, and check out my merchandise store, squarebodystuff.shop, where we got some hats, we got t-shirts and stickers, lots of stickers. So anyhow, yeah, I'm gonna grab my little bottle of gasoline, and we're gonna get Creampuff. The reason why we're getting Creampuff out of the Field of Dreams, where usually Squarebody's go to die, is because a few weeks ago, fuel pump went out on him. Well, I thought it was a fuel pump. I was headed to church, and he died, pulled over on the side of the road. We ended up dragging him home. We used Maxine to drag him home, which at least I didn't have to have a Ford drag him home. Anyhow, it sat for a couple weeks, and threw a fuel pump on him real quick, and still no fuel coming from either tank. Yeah, he is a dual tank truck, so I don't know if the selector valve might be bad, or if it got a hole in the line somewhere where it's not sucking. After I put the fuel pump on, I could tell that it was trying to pump just a little bit, but just not enough to keep the carburetor full. So I just used this, squirted some fuel in him, got him parked out here, got him pulled out of the shop, parked out here, until now that I have time to work on him. I'm gonna try to get him moved in. We're supposed to be getting some rain. It may be tomorrow before I actually get to work on him. I'll get stuff going on tonight. But yeah, this is where Creampuff has been parked for a little while, out in the Field of Dreams. So I'm not sure if this is going to turn into how to do what. Hopefully it's just how to get my daily driver running again. That way I'll have even more ambition to maybe finish the big block up for Creampuff, and that I would kind of dropped along with making videos this past March, because right now it don't matter if I have an engine or not, the truck won't run. So let's get him juiced up and get him in the shop. I should have some fuel left in the bowl, but I'm gonna go ahead and fill it up in my condiment bottle. That should be plenty. And he should start up like normal. Couple pumps. Yep. Let the lifters rattle a little bit until the oil pressure gets all pumped up. Okay, let's get to the shop. Maybe I didn't put enough fuel in there. Hold on. Come on. Alright. Maybe that'll be enough to get to the shop. I may have squirted too much in there and flooded it. I don't know. Here we go again. Tex. That didn't last long. Ugh. Ugh. One more time. Hopefully you can see that. It's like trying to pump, but it's not filling up enough. Yeah. It's trying to pump. I know when it first happened, when I'm on the side of the road, I pulled the fuel line off of the carburetor right here and pointed it in a safe direction and cranked on it, and there was no fuel coming out. So I guess there is a chance that this fuel filter may have collapsed. And that'll make a lot of people happy because nobody likes these plastic filters, and I've never had any issues with them. And I know if Jerry from Ugly Truck Experience is watching, he would be ecstatic if that was the issue. But like an idiot, I didn't grab another fuel filter. I don't think I got one on the shelf. I did grab another selector valve for the tank, but that might be it. We'll check it out. If that's not it, then I'm hoping, it looks like it's trying to pump, so I don't think it's my push rod or my cam lobe. That's another thing I thought. What if it's the cam lobe that pushes the push rod, that pumps the pumper, pumps the fuel? Since that seems to be a thing right now of destroying camshafts with stuff driven off of them, that's why the 383 is not currently in that Corvette. It wasn't the fuel pump, it was the distributor gear. Someone put the wrong distributor gear on the roller cam and destroyed the cam gear. Alright, we'll dig into this a little bit and see what we can find out. Well, first I'd like to have a little discussion about diagnosing issues. I'm not a big fan of doing pretty much what I did as far as just throwing parts at it. You know, I did just throw a fuel pump on there thinking that was it, because I didn't do any other testing other than pulling the line off the carburetor. With that said, main reason I just went ahead and jumped and done that. Fuel pump, cheap, doesn't take long to put in, and it was 5.5 years old, which really isn't that old, but in today's standards, stuff just doesn't last like it used to. And speaking of the fuel pump that I pulled off of this engine, one of my top videos, actually it is still one of my top 10 videos every week or every day, of putting that fuel pump on and showing you guys how to install a small block Chevy fuel pump. It's gotten, in that 5.5 years, it's gotten like 160,000 views. It's made me a decent little bit amount of money. Not much. I mean, it's over $1,000, I'll say that. Which was pretty cool. I didn't realize that till this happened, and I started looking up. It's like, hey, how long ago to do that? And I started looking at analytics. Like, hey, that's pretty cool. But thanks to you guys for watching me. I don't suggest, well, I guess, go back and watch that video, and you can kind of see how far I've come. I hate watching it. I hate watching my old stuff. Actually, I hate watching my new stuff. But anyhow, you can kind of see how I've progressed in making these videos. So if you think I'm bad now, go watch some of my old stuff, and you'll appreciate where I'm at. All right, so what we do know as far as diagnosing, you first got to kind of understand the system you're working on, how it works, and that way you can kind of decide which end of the system, whether it's a fuel system, oil system, whatever system or whatever part you're working on, you need to understand how it works and find a good starting point to work from one end to the other. So I've already started at this end. I know I'm not getting any fuel, or wasn't getting any fuel to this point. We could see at this point that it's kind of barely pumping. We're pretty sure that brand new fuel pump is working, because the other pump probably was working just fine too. I don't know. But then from there we can go back. We got a fuel line going down the fuel rail. Then on this truck, that fuel line goes to the selector valve. Which I can't remember if I mentioned earlier that I have a brand new selector valve, just in case that was it. But your main fuel lines, I believe, from the engine, this should be the out. Should be the out. That should be your return line. Or this should be the out to the engine, and this should be your return line going back to the tanks. And then these lines will go to left or right tank respectively. It's got left here, right there. So that's how that switch works. Then you've also got the switch, you've got the wiring, then you got the tanks. From that it goes to each tank, and it would be just like it was a single tank from that point. Because right now neither tank, if I flip the switch, I can't get it to run on either tank. So we do have that little bit of information. Now, I know I'm kind of dragging this out, but that's just kind of how I do things. I know I've had some comments in the past, I drag things out. Well, that's just how I do it. I try to be thorough. I try to answer what questions I think you might have. Try to answer them while I'm doing the video, and try to just be thorough as I can. Because that just makes for more informational video for you guys. I know if you're just trying to find out a how-to, you want to know right then, just skip all the crap, just get right to it. How do you fix this? Because I'm the same way. If I'm watching a YouTube video trying to figure out how to fix stuff, because I do that too, especially if something I've never worked on before, because that way it just gives you a leg up. Anyhow, and you just want to click on it, how to do this, you want to know how to do that or how they do it, and then get on with your life, fix it. I'm really not that guy, so I apologize. Feel free to skip forward through any of my stuff, and but got off in that rabbit trail. Lots of rabbit trails on my channel too. But for diagnosis, figure out how your system works, figure out what components are in your system, what does what, and then start from one end to the other and figure out which component. And there may be times where you have two components. You may have several issues, but find out what's not doing its thing, and then either repair or replace whatever said thing is doing that's not doing its thing, and make it do its thing, and then your stuff runs, and then you're happy and you can go on about your life. Okay, so let's look at my switch again. I'm going to show you what happens in here. That way you guys are on the same page as I am. We turn the key on. My switch is on the left-hand tank, the driver's side tank, and that's the tank that I usually run on because my passenger side tank does have a leak. And I do have a brand new fuel tank sitting up in the rafters of the shop, just not ready to put it in because I want to replace both of them. I just don't have two tanks. Anyhow, I normally drive on this tank, and it's around 3/4 of a tank full, which should be right because I filled it up and hadn't drove it a whole lot. So it's not like I drove it forever and the gauge stopped. So let's flip the switch, and my fuel gauge should go down to just above empty, or between empty and a 1/4 tank. And it's going to lie to me, it's going to go a little bit, almost half, which isn't quite right, but oh, there it goes. It's going down more. Not sure if you can see that or not. Maybe get my camera closer. Okay, so we're showing just a little less than 1/4, which that's just kind of my reserve tank. I never put any fuel in it, or try not to unless I'm going on a long trip. But I do know my selector valve does leak by a little bit on the return side, because I cannot fill that tank up for several months and be pretty much right around empty, right where it's at, and then I'll flip it up to checking how much fuel is in that tank, and I'll have almost half a tank. So that's saved me, it got me out of a bind several times, because I like to push the fuel I've got in this tank that I use all the time, and yeah, I've had to use that reserve. So dual tanks will spoil you until they don't work, and then you know, gas powered engines will spoil you until they don't work. So all right, so we're up to speed. We know what's working, what's possibly not working. Let's work our way from one end of the system to the other. Okay, let's just go ahead and take the line loose on the inlet side of the fuel filter. Since I've already checked it from here, and I'm gonna blow through this. Well, it does seem a little restricted. I'm going to find the hose barb to hook this line to another piece of hose. Try to do it a little bit safely, so it's not just squirting fuel out the camera. But I've got a hose barb here and a length of 3/8 fuel line going to gas jug. Let's turn the key over and see. Nothing. It should be pumping. Okay, well that didn't do any good. Still have no fuel. So we're still assuming that the fuel pump is okay, because we have the same issue with both fuel pumps. Now, yes, it still could be the fuel pump push rod. Not super difficult to figure that out. Just pull the pump off, hold my finger up on there, have someone, or I can hook up my little remote starter button thing and crank the engine over and see if it's moving in and out. But our next easiest thing, that we're going to assume that the fuel pump's okay, the next easiest thing to diagnose this is to move down the line. Obviously check the condition of the fuel line, because if the fuel line's got a big hole in it, you would think you'd probably have a, you'd see something underneath. But check the fuel line, see if it's got a hole in it. Then our selector valve we could bypass it. If we bypass it, that gets it out of the system, and we'll know if it is the issue. So that's where we're going to head next. We're going to crawl underneath there and or get this thing up in the air, crawl underneath, check the fuel line, make sure visually it looks okay, and then bypass the selector valve. Alright, so been thinking there is a possibility my gauge is off. Now I have tried switching it to the other tank to see if it'd pull any in there, but I don't know if that tank, I mean the gauge says about 1/8 to 1/4 or whatever, but may not have enough in it to actually pull. So we're gonna put, I got a couple gallons of gas in the can. We're gonna put it in the driver's side tank that I run off of primarily and see if anything happens. Now, I did put a new fuel filter and put that back together. So, because we're pretty much sure that from the fuel pump to the carburetor is good. But let's put some gas in it and see if that works. It may just be the gauge quit working right. I'm kind of hoping so, because I really don't want to have to do any more work to it right now. Got other stuff I need to do. But then I don't know what I'm going to do with this video. Well, I hope it runs on diesel fuel. Ah, just kidding. Okay, let's flip it to the left side tank. If I remember right, it was about 3/4. I added a couple gallons, so it should be closer to full. I don't know. Unless I go back through the footage, I don't know really where it's at. But let's go ahead and try to crank on it, see what happens. Well, he should have picked up something, and he didn't. So I'm going to jack it up and bypass the selector valve and maybe do some more looking underneath there, see if we can find anything. I'm not seeing anything obvious as far as fuel line being broke, because this line here is the one that goes up to the fuel pump. That's the supply coming from the selector valve. This line goes over to the driver's side tank. This one goes over to the passenger side tank. And these two over here and this one are the return. That should just be a evap line. Not worried about that guy. So I can remove this line, put a hose from here up to here, just put a barb in there, bypass the selector valve over to my driver's side tank, and that should bypass this guy, and hopefully we'll get some fuel. And hopefully you guys can see what's going on. It's hard to get a good angle down here. See how much of a gasoline bath I'm going to take. That's always fun. And we got fuel there. Let
me just slide that back on. We'll deal with that one later. Let's work on getting this one off. Oops. And I think I'll just cut it. Yeah, that's, I guess, a good sign. We don't have any fuel there. We've got fuel coming out of that side. So, let's see. And I found these little PVC cutters work pretty good for fuel line and any other lines that you might have. This is looking promising. Now, I'm not going to worry about any clamps right now or anything. We're just going to see if this will work, because our selector valve is bypassed. It's no longer part of the equation. All right, here we go. I'm gonna start cranking on it. See if I can see any fuel. If I pump the throttle just once, it'll fire right off. Yeah, he'll run. Getting fuel now. He's pumping plenty of fuel now. He's been a little cold-natured because having the key on the whole time, the choke opened up. So yeah, we're drivable now. The old 350's getting kind of wore out. He's smoking a little bit. And honestly, probably smokes less than Squeaky does. So, oh well. Well, now I've got a decision to make. Am I just going to do what I normally would do and just put some hose clamps on that piece of hose I put in there and call it a day and drive it? Well, now that we know that the issues with the selector valve, that's where the fuel was stopping, that doesn't mean we're out of the woods. It doesn't mean throw that selector valve on there and we got it fixed, because that selector valve has its own system. I mean, the fuel side of the system is pretty self-explanatory. You got your ins and outs, but then you got the electrical side, and this is kind of a universal one that has a lot of wires that you need to rewire, but the factory switch or selector valve only has, I think it's one wire going to it, maybe two. So this is kind of a universal deal. All of these wires are for if you're putting this into something that never had dual tanks, because it has the wires for your sending units and all that stuff on this, which our factory selector valve doesn't have. So I have to do some figuring out what wires we do need on this if it does happen to be this unit. But first, I need to diagnose if it's an electrical problem or if the selector valve itself has quit working. And apparently, if it did, it just quit working all by itself. So I honestly don't understand this system 100% on how it works. So I'm going to do some research and figuring that out, and then I will be back in here and let you know what I found out, and then we'll figure out if where we need to go from there. But I got to do some research, put on my thinking cap, and see how the system truly works so we could get a good thorough diagnostics on it. Well, stumbled upon something trying to figure this all out, and yeah, I was just trying to run my test light. Of course, I had to fix my test light. Wire broke on it, so I had to fix that. But I got underneath the truck. Let me show you what I found. This green wire is the wire that goes to the solenoid or the selector valve. Well, when I was looking at it earlier, I didn't just go grab and hold the wires and all that stuff to make sure every wire was perfect, but I went to just unplug this, and yeah, it came undone. And then so I pulled that off, and there's a little bit, let me switch hands. Really need this truck to be up a little higher. No, the camera angle's not that great, but if you listen, I touched that wire, I've got the key on. I hear the selector valve moving, so I'm pretty sure this little wire was my problem. Now I just got to figure out how to redo that and hook my fuel line back up and see if it works. I think that was the issue. Now I do have a couple dual tank trucks out in the field of dreams, so let's go see if we might have a plug on one of them. I can cut off a length of wire and be able to splice it. Maybe. And it's just starting to rain. That's alright, I was born wet. But honestly, it still doesn't explain why. Because I think the way that valve works is when power is applied, it switches to the driver's tank. I think whenever you flip the switch, there's only one wire going to the solenoid, so it should just go back to the primary tank, which in those years was the passenger side tank. So it should automatically just reset that valve to suck from the passenger side tank. And I won't get any fuel from it either. So it may not be out of the woods yet, but at least I'm gonna have a plug that's on there right, and then go from there. Let me see if I can climb underneath this guy. Hopefully there's no critters. Yeah. The selector valve is under this cover, but all I need is a plug. You guys just stay right there. No, it's actually the got the same plug on it that the new valve has got. Let me see if I got one more truck that's got a tank or dual tank on it, I think. Let me see what else I can find. You can see up in there, it's the same as the and this may be an aftermarket one that someone's already replaced. I don't know. Ow. Oh. Oh. Get too old and fat for that stuff. I think that black truck over there is a dual tank truck. Let's see. Hold on. Can't remember if this one was or not. It's got a switch. Maybe. Oh yeah. This is not going to be pretty. Thorn bushes right where I need to be. Everywhere. It ain't got a valve there, I don't think. That truck might be a dual tank truck too. Should be. It's got a switch. And it's got tanks on both sides. Not sure if I can get underneath that thing. No valve. Yeah, one more shot. And it's the later style too. Oh no, my belly's stuck. Oh. All that for nothing. I'll figure something out. Alright, I think I found a nut because the terminal that just slipped onto was threaded. I think I found a nut. Need to find some washers, and I'll put a ring terminal on the end of that wire. Hopefully that'll work. And as I was saying earlier, didn't make any sense why I wasn't pumping any fuel from the passenger side tank. I know we flipped the switch and watched the gauge. The gauge was showing some fuel in there. I'm not going to trust that gauge 100%, but here's my theory on what happened. If that valve works the way I think it does, if there's no power, it should revert. It should pull from the passenger side tank, your main tank. Then when power is applied, it should pull from the driver's side tank. Well, with the switch switched, I was driving along and I could see the amount of fuel that was in my driver's side tank, but with that wire broke, it was actually pulling off of my passenger side tank. Pulled it dry, so then when I flipped the switch, it flipped the gauge around. But like I said, I'm not too sure about the gauge, but what had happened, I'm pretty sure, is my passenger side tank is completely dry right now, and my driver's side tank has fuel in it. But that switch, yeah. Does that all make sense? That makes sense to me. Anyhow, I'm gonna try to figure out how to hook this back up, and as long as I have fuel on the driver's side, I'm gonna be happy. I've got my wire hooked back up. Just happened to find the nut that's just right. A couple washers, we're in business there. So I wanted to test the theory of what I was talking about, this tank being empty. So I disconnected that hose that went up to the engine. So this has got that long piece of hose on it, and it should, when I blow into it, it goes back into this other tank. I know you won't be able to hear it, but I'll blow into the other end of this end, and I could hear, when I put my ear up to the tank, I could hear air going into this tank. So that means that the air is going from here over to the right side tank, because the selector valve should be closed. Now I'm going to go turn the key on, and this valve should open, and then the air should come out of this side. So let's go test that real quick. Okay, this would have been a whole lot easier to do if I would have not put this on there. I could have just left the key on and blown into that and just tapped it and whatever. Oh well, we're already here. So keys on. We should have voltage to this. I couldn't tell if it clicked or not, but let's double check if we got voltage. Yep, we got voltage to it, so that solenoid should be open. We should have air coming through this side. Yep, bam. Where we're at now is I'm gonna put this hose, cut it down, put it here, put some clamps on everything, reconnect this hose, and we should be good to go. All right, everything's back together, working as it should. I also put some of this battery terminal protector, sprayed it on that terminal just to keep it from corroding. So yeah, you know, earlier in the video when I was talking about, you know, thorough diagnostics and all this stuff, well, kind of got bit in the butt by a little wire. But that's happened sometimes. Not hiding it from you guys, that's just how it went, and that's how it goes sometimes. That one little wire, if I would have found that, which visually inspecting, it was still where it's supposed to be. It was just hanging on by a little bit of the insulation apparently. And when I got under there and bumped it, went to pull that terminal off, then it fell off in my hand. So with that said, Creampuff is fixed. We can get back on the big block, and hopefully you guys have learned something on at least how this how the dual tank system works. Yeah, hopefully we've all learned a little bit of something. And I also did learn this this new selector valve doesn't work the same, because I was looking at to see if I could tell you guys how to make it work, and it can still be made to work and all that in the truck, but it'll be a little bit more work. As I said before, there's sending unit wires. Don't need to worry about those, but I was trying to figure out how to make the solenoid work, because when I got it, I could blow through this one, or I could blow through the outlet and it'd come out this inlet, which would be the left side as it's marked. So looking at the diagram, let's see, D and E, these two wires go to each side of the switch. Then I got to thinking, I bet it is, well, let me go back a little bit. E and D, these two wires go to each side of the switch. And if you're running mechanical or electric fuel pumps, the fuel pump also goes off of each side of that, off of these two wires. That means that one is power, one is ground. But to make this work, hooked to a switch, all that switch does is reverse
polarity, I guess you say. So I tested it on just hooked up to the battery, touched one side to the other, and I could hear it moving. All it is in here is a motor that turns, that moves that valve back and forth. It's not a solenoid. So you hear it go, and then you can blow through the other side. Switch the wires, then you can blow through the other side. It's just a motor. So like I said, it could be made to work. That looks identical to what was on the two trucks that was out in the Field of Dreams, and those are I think both of them are 90 or 91s. So they're later model fuel injected trucks. Actually, one of them was a diesel. Anyhow, don't matter. That could be made to work. It did come with a switch. It comes with the wiring and a switch. So you could go through and make this work in your older ones. But I don't know if you can make it work with the factory switch or not. I'm not gonna get that deep into it. Maybe on down the road when I do need a selector valve. I'd like to try to find the original type. Like this has got the solenoid type, but I'm not sure if they make it anymore. Didn't even look. So there you go. Now we do have several other things that we're going to be doing to this truck in the future. I've said in a couple other videos. And one thing I haven't mentioned is I need to put a different grill in there. Right now the grill is kind of held in by a zip tie, well, 2 zip ties, and pretty much hopes and dreams, because this side doesn't have anything holding it. I do have a few other grills. I got another 77 through 79 grill there. I've got 2 up there, another one up there, and I think that one's the one I'm going to use in Cream Puff. It's in really good shape. It's got a good patina to it, but it doesn't have the emblem or the strips on it, but I could take them off of this grill and put them on that one. And we've also got some interior parts I want to put in him. I've got this dash up there. Yeah, it's a really nice dash. I got it at an auction. Pretty happy to find it. It's not completely perfect, but it is an OEM dash that's in really good shape. I've also got these really nice door panels that are in a lot better shape than Cream Puffs. Again, the wrong color. The dash is the wrong color. But I am going to try to make a video on that later on how to recolor your dash panel and door panels and stuff like that. So stuff we got coming up. Because yeah, let me show you the door panel on Cream Puff right now. It's actually getting pretty irritating. It's pretty common on these, but it's starting to poke through where I put my elbow, where it's just all worn out. I do need to get some new armrest pads, or I might just take the one off the passenger side, which is still in decent shape, and just swap them for now so I don't have to buy pads. But I think if I do new door panels and cleaned up, that I should probably get some armrests too. These aluminum inserts are in really good shape. I'll probably put these inserts in those other panels. The dash on Cream Puff is pretty well shot. And obviously the other big thing we need to do with Cream Puff is get the old big block that's hiding underneath this trash bag finished up and put in there. And all that stuff will be coming up on later episodes of Squarebody Stuff. Hopefully you guys stick around. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe button, do all that stuff. Do the membership thing. Got merchandise, I think I already covered that. I think we're already good on everything. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me, trying to figure out why Cream Puff wasn't running. Because if we didn't get that figured out, there wasn't no sense in working on the big block. So now we got it figured out. Until then, y'all keep your square bodies rolling. We'll catch you later.